What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's video, we're going to talk about the stock market crash as a result of Jerome Powell's testimony in front of Congress, and I'm going to cover three stocks. The Trka debacle, down at one point almost 70% from this morning's high, and why there's two stocks right now that you need to be buying just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, East Coast time. So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and pull up a chair, grab yourself a cup of coffee, ice cold beer, glass of wine, whiskey on a big rock. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you might notice that I'm sitting kind of like Joe Rogan does with my hands on my side because I've discovered in the last hour, I did another video a few minutes ago, that the table was shaking. I've got a 300-pound table that you've seen, or at least you can see part of it, and there's a wobble to it. So my camera was shaking, and I got halfway through watching the first video, and I said, it's just not going to work. It's too wobbly. It was also almost 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to cut this one down. I'm going to have to go to Best Buy and get another stand, and I may move it off the table, so there's definitely no shake. So here I am, back once again, closing in on 2 p.m. We now have the Dow Jones Industrials down more than 500 points. And while I have not seen Jerome Powell's testimony beyond the first half hour, obviously something he said is not sitting so well because we have the US dollar on fire, up over 1%. And as I've said repeatedly, there's an inverse relationship between the US dollar and interest rates and what the stock market does. If the 10-year or the inverted curves with all of them, all maturities now over 4%, which is very dangerous, and the US dollar's on fire, stocks are going lower. And that's exactly what's happening. And it probably has something to do with the fact where he said, whether it was to a senator or coming out into the room somewhere, that depending on the data, they may have to go 50 basis points. Maybe not once, but twice. I haven't seen that with my own two eyes, but I have to assume with the Dow now down 520 at almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon that he said something that wasn't too agreeable. So, what's going to happen in the near term until interest rates, namely the 10-year and the US dollar, stop going up, which is again inverse, and the VIX is now at 19.5, which is not very elevated. It's obviously up from the level of 18. Until that settles down, the market's going to have a problem. But as I've said repeatedly, 3,900 is the floor on the downside. The upside, where I called the top almost to the hour, at let's call it my call was 4182. Let's call it 4,200. Until we get through 4,200 on the upside, this is not a bull market. I don't give a shit what Jim Cramer says. Everything that comes out of his mouth, for the most part, is dead wrong. Until we get through that level, we're going sideways. This is an epic battle between bulls and bears. And until we break down through 3,900 on the S&P, we're going sideways. We break 3,900. We're going to challenge the December and then ultimately the October lows. But with respect to the three stocks we own, and again, bear with me. I'm used to putting my hands on the desk. You ever notice Joe Rogan? He sits like this. Maybe it's because he doesn't want to put his hands on the desk. I don't know. Maybe it's because he's much more disciplined in not being so spastic in front of the microphone. But bear with me as I deal with what is, again, a shaky camera. All right. The first video I did, I was talking about, to start with, ENSC. I've tweeted about this on Twitter. Make sure you follow me, Edward, Nancy, Sam, Charlie. There's a cup and handle for me. This may pull back to the mid to high 50s, but it may not. And last trade right now, 65.5. If it blasts through 70 in this type of market, obviously something's going on. But don't you be freaking out if we go back and form that handle, which can be a 10 to 15% pullback from the top of the cup. That'll be a buy. And as if you're following me on Twitter, I'm making it real easy. Green is buy. Red is don't buy. I may add a yellow similar to a stop sign in terms of a hold as I have right now on PBLA, but I'll figure it out. All you got to do is check the Twitter feed once a day. And if you're kind enough, like Jason Fung, who's been a premium member since the beginning, you'll become a premium member. $1 a day. I got stocks looking at, it's all over the place. Right now, let me just stop right now. HLBZ, and again, I don't know how long it's going to take for this stock to load. It's now at 0.131. It was on the last video in the 129s. HLBZ at 13 or thereabouts is an effing buy, and you should be all over Xela at 06 or less. On the prior video, which again I had to redo because of the shake of the camera, it was a little bit lower. We're now down 540 on the Dow. Last trade again, HLBZ 1311, Xela 0598. Both of those at 13 and 6 respectively or less are a screaming buy. But if you got $1 a day, please and thank you for supporting us. Even if you just want to be a trader, unless you fill out your profile, it's invisible to the public. No one will see it. So you go to trysmallbiz.com. If you're already a member, you hit that red upgrade to premium button. If you're not a member yet, you don't fill out any of the information. You just add your credit card information. And by the way, we don't sell any of your personal info to anyone. We never have. We never will. And if you don't fill it out, you remain invisible to the public. You're off the Google search engines, but you're supporting me because if you do the math right now at 383 out of 6,300 members that pay us $1 a day, it's not much. A third go to taxes, a third go to Facebook, $100 a day in ads, and I got to live on what, 3 or 4 grand? If it's not for trading, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not putting a roof over my head. But I'm now putting the onus on you. I've built it. We have over 6,000 premium members. Last trade TRKA at 53.5. I said it was a buy in the low 40s. If that's what you want to do, it's a sell in the mid to high 60s. I do not think it's going much, if any higher than that. But I need dollars a day. I have built this in the spirit of Kevin Costner. See the movie if you haven't already. It's now time for you guys to come. I hear you, Ma. Family show. Right? She passed away, if you're new, of a stroke in 2015. It's now time for you to come. I hear you, Ma. $1 a day. Get it together, Jason. $1 a day, folks, please. $1 a day. We have a 35% attrition rate. That's too high. I've got to do a better job of adding more and more value so we can keep folks that give us $1 a day around forever. Because if you guys want that cruise out of Miami, or if you want to be throwing dice in Vegas, it's possible now. We just need about 10% of the 6,000 free members to step forward with $1 a day, and we're at our goal, which originally was what? 1,000. We only need another 600, 10% of you, and there's almost 11,000 more on Twitter to step forward with $1 a day at trysmallbiz.com. Get a premium membership. You'll be glad you did. All right. And I say this with the utmost respect to all the bag holders on TRKA. Don't say I didn't warn you. And I'm here to not only help you make, but save money. I've been screaming for the last 48 hours, and again this morning, that when you have a stock in TRKA, again, last trade 53.5. The low side was, I think, 43. I've seen it bounce once or twice to the mid to high 60s, where I say is pull the ripcord area. Whenever you have a stock that was that far extended from home base, the 50-day moving average, as I said repeatedly, including with a graph, is 22 cents. I don't give a shit what the story is. I had a bunch of dumb retail idiots that we unfortunately had to block that are disrespectful. I don't mind if you take the other side of the trade. We have plenty of folks that do that, but at least they're respectful. But if you're going to throw my name, my face, down into the mud, I'm punching back. I'm throwing your ass out. I don't give a shit if you're a premium member or not. And we've had to remove 1 or 2 of them, including a guy who called me again the other day. I'm not returning your phone call until I want to. You need to show some respect to my name. I have been more than gracious with my time and energy and trying to teach you how to make money in the stock market. But if you're going to give me a hard time every time there's a pullback, which I've said is going to happen in small cap stocks, I'm throwing your ass out the door. With respect to other folks, and you got to be premium if you call me at 866-2-SMALL-BIZ. It's taking me, last trade ENSC, 67, something going on there. Don't buy it up there. Try to buy it at 60 or less. If you're going to pay me $1 a day and you call me on the phone, because I have other things to do, I may have to get back to you in 3 or 4 days. All right, I can feel the patience wearing thin as people log off the site. TRKA. 50-day moving average, 22 cents. When you're at 4 or 5x, as you were between 75 and $1, you got to get out of the stock. I don't care what the story is. I don't care how good the earnings were, which today were pretty good. It's too far away from home base. There's going to be a reversion to the mean, and that's exactly what happened. You had a classic, what's called exhaustion gap at the open. It gapped up into the low mid 90s, and then it started to fail. The institutions, the dark pools, the high frequency trading organizations must have been thinking, holy shit, how stupid are these people? You've got a stock up from a dime in less than 6 weeks. It's 10x, similar to LHDX when it ran from 12, where I told you to buy it, to as high as 145 last trade, 42 before it imploded. You cannot stay in a stock in this market with a Dow down almost 600 points at just below 2 o'clock in the afternoon outside. You can't stay in a stock that long in this market. If you're fortunate to have a stock that's up 2x, 3x, or God bless you, 10x, you got to get out. You got to stop falling in love and treating these stocks like a lottery ticket. It's been proven, and I've been in the trenches now for 30 years. If you can hit a series of singles and doubles, 20, 30, maybe even 40% gains, and you're right, 70, or as I have been, 84% of the time with over 100 winners in the last 12 months, you're going to make a fortune. At one point last year, we were up 16x. Even with the drawdowns, we are still up almost 700%. That is 100 times Joe Biden's stock market. Actually, it's going to be less now. The S&P is up 5.5%, I'm estimating, in the last 2 years with this major drawdown today. If you put your money with me, even though we've got a couple of hickeys, GMBL is one example, you're up 700%. At one point, we were up 1,600% last year. I know what the hell I'm doing. I know how to make it take it. I know how to buy the dip, sell the rip. A lot of what we own, last trade HLBZ, 13.15. If you own it, congratulations. If you don't, you better be buying it at around 13 cents. Xela, last trade 0598, both screaming buys. You have to pay attention to the rules. And I'm sorry to see so many people get hurt in TRKA. I bought it at 50. We made about 30% selling it at 65. Now it's going the other way. Last trade 0.155. 5155, excuse me. I made 30%. I let it go early, but I'm not in this to buy a stock or own it as it's up 7, 8, 9, 10x. I knew the legs were going to get pulled out. And the fact that the stock came crashing down 65% so quickly, so violently, tells you it's a broken stock. It may be a great company and the earnings were strong, but it's a broken stock. Whether it was dilution, whether it was high frequency bots that were just destroying the dumb retail money, I don't know what it is. But last trade, let's call it 50 cents. It's been cut in half. So if you bought it in the low 40s or you're considering it, you got to let it go in the mid 60s. It ain't, in my opinion, going much higher than that, which leads me to believe not until the 50-day catches up, which again is at 23 cents. It's going to take about a month of sideways action in order to get that done. HLBZ. You can say what you want about Sal. He's an Italian. He owns half the float. He's been buying most of what Yorkville has been diluting. He's erratic, but at least he engages. Do you know that there was a hedge fund not long ago? I believe the name of it is X. They bought millions of shares, close to 40 million shares in the mid to high 30s on Xela. They could not get the CEO, PAR of Xela on the phone. I don't know about you, but I can almost guarantee if you called Sal, the CEO of HLBZ, who again owns half the float, and you say, "Hi, Sal. I own 10 million, 15 million, 20, 30 million shares. You got a few minutes to chat?" He would have gotten on the phone immediately. That guy engages with the smallest of investors on Twitter and on other sites as well. So he's hyperactive. He's not perfect, but he's incentivized, in my opinion, with the stock at 13 cents to get it much higher. His average, by the way, is well over $1, close to $1.50 if my math serves me. If this stock doesn't go up 10x from where it is right now, he's not even going to break even. We saw it run from 11 and change to 19, where I said, get out. I'm saying get back in right now, in and around 13 cents. In my opinion, with the Dow down almost 600, it's going to make another run. And let us not forget, before we get on to Xela, we made most of our money last year when the market was in free fall. So if we are going to go down and retest 3,900 and maybe even challenge the December or October lows, these small cap stocks may catch fire again. Why? Institutions, investors are going to need beta. They're going to need volatility to make up for the losses that they're taking in the big stocks, in the major indices. They're going to be looking at stocks like we've owned, stocks that we happen to have a niche, an expertise, a value to some of you that are willing to pay us $1 a day and help you make 4, 5, 10 times on your money. That is unheard of types of returns. So last but not least, Xela, last trade 6 cents. And again, Hlbz is going up 13.20. You should have been all over it at 13 or less. That's the buy zone. Hlbz 13. The buy zone on Xela is at 6 or less. Full disclosure, I own well over 1 million shares of the stock in the mid 6s. Some of you sold it at 8, 8.5 about a week ago. God bless you. I told you better be buying it back because there's a chance we're going to fill the gap. And what did we do? This morning, the low was 0581. We filled about a half of the gap, and we did it on light volume. We went up to 8.5 on 750 million shares. We came down on less than 150 million volume and filled most of that gap in the mid to high 5s. Very, very bullish. The fact that it's now back, last trade now 0602, in a market that's down almost 600 is very impressive. So folks, in closing, if you got wrecked in TRKA, let it be a lesson. Don't ever buy a stock that's 4 or 5x away from its 50-day moving average. That is a recipe for disaster. If you bought some in the low to mid 40s, get out of it. If it runs to the low to mid 60s, that's it. It's range bound until that 50-day can catch up. It may take as much as a month to do so. And if you got some money without going over the 10% limit per idea, by more than a couple of percent. Hlbz last trade 1307. Xel last trade 0599 are a screaming buy. And until next time, always remember that I love you guys and I really appreciate you watching.